Returning home from the lawyer's office that day, a bit earlier than usual, Emily tried to act like nothing was wrong. Hang up her raincoat, quietly set her umbrella in the entryway, and slip into the bedroom, hoping her husband, Ethan, wouldn't notice her early arrival. A lump stuck in her throat. What she'd learned at the law firm had to stay a secret from everyone, including her husband. But the moment her keys jingled faintly, a voice came from the kitchen, her mother-in-law's, gruff but not loud, speaking in a hushed tone. Hearing her own name, Emily instinctively froze. She knew eavesdropping wasn't right, but the heavy tone of Ethan's mother, Marge, made her pause. It quickly became clear they were talking about her, about an inheritance, and some perfect opportunity they couldn't miss. When Emily caught specific words, a chill of horror shook her. It seemed her husband and mother-in-law had been plotting something sinister behind her back for a while. Moving slowly, barely breathing, she pressed against the wall. The hallway was dim, with only a faint glow from the kitchen illuminating the doorway. Ethan spoke softly, but his voice carried an unfamiliar fury. Marge, on the other hand, sounded like she was scolding him, egging him on. You know, if she's finalized everything but hasn't signed it over to you yet, Mom, I get it. Don't start, Ethan cut in. I told you, Emily's clinging to her house, her papers, like a pit bull. And this new document you heard about is probably the key to moving things forward. We could lose everything if we don't do what you suggested. Marge's voice rasped. Don't you dare push her right now. Wait until she brings it up herself. She's got her own interests. The sentence trailed off. A chair scraped, and Emily's blood ran cold. The conversation was about to end, and if she didn't hide, they'd catch her listening. She barely made it to the bathroom, shutting the door behind her, nervously rubbing her hands to stop the trembling. What are they talking about? What do they care about my legal papers? What's going on? Her thoughts jumbled. At the law firm, she'd dealt with a delicate matter. She'd learned her late aunt, someone most of the family barely mentioned, had left a will naming Emily as a beneficiary. Somehow, Ethan and his mother had gotten wind of her visit. But how did they know such details? And more importantly, why were they scheming to stop her from finalizing the paperwork? Emily racked her brain, tried to recall if she'd told anyone about the potential new property. No, she hadn't. Well, maybe once she vaguely mentioned a close relative planning to pass something down, but she hadn't shared specifics. Staring into the bathroom mirror, she saw fear etched on her face, her temples throbbing, a storm of panic and hurt raging inside. Memories of the last few years of marriage flashed like a tattered quilt. Emily had always sensed Marge's dislike, but she'd hoped Ethan was her ally. Over their 5 years of marriage, they'd fought, sure, but she believed he loved her. Now it turned out they shared some secret plan tied to her assets. From this day, her life might change completely. She had to decide, play naive or dig in and fight back. Stepping out of the bathroom, she ran smack into Marge. The older woman hadn't expected Emily home so early, her eyebrow twitching in surprise, but she quickly plastered on a fake smile. "Oh, we thought you were still at work," Marge chirped, her voice dripping with syrupy sweetness that always rang hollow. "Yeah, classes wrapped up early today," Emily mumbled. "You visiting for long?" Marge drawled. "Just pop by to chat with my boy." "Well, I'll head out. You two probably want some alone time." She muttered a few more words, grabbed her purse, and shuffled to the door. Ethan, passing by, shot Emily a quick glance, part guilty, part annoyed. He didn't try to hug her, kiss her, or even ask about her day. Just grumbled, "Gonna walk Mom out," and vanished through the door. Emily sank onto a stool, drained. Just last night, she and Ethan had sat at dinner, talking about her promotion at work. As a community college instructor, she'd been offered a new role. He'd seemed thrilled, supportive, saying, "You deserve this. You worked so hard." And now it turned out he was hiding something big, plotting with his mother about her inheritance, clearly with greedy intentions. Standing in the dim kitchen, Emily replayed snippets of the overheard conversation. Anxiety morphed into anger. How could they do this? If he married her for money, for property, then all these years, he'd just been pretending to be a loving husband. Or was this a recent shift? It sounded like they were talking about her aunt's condo or maybe a lakeside cabin. That's what the law firm meeting was about. Emily couldn't calm down, clenching her fists. I got to get to the bottom of this and figure out what to do. The next day, she took an early Uber to work, barely holding back tears. The night had been restless. Ethan came home late, claiming urgent errands, while Emily pretended to be asleep. She wasn't ready for a confrontation, and he didn't seem eager to talk either. In the college hallway, she bumped into her close friend Claire, a literature professor. Claire immediately noticed Emily's distress. "Whoa, you look like you're about to pass out. What's wrong?" Emily shook her head. "I'll tell you later. Not ready yet." Saw the... Claire frowned but didn't pry. Later, during lunch break, Emily approached Claire and quietly spilled everything. Claire sighed. "My God, is your husband really capable of scheming like that? Maybe you misheard." But from the fragments Emily described, it was clear Ethan and Marge's conversation was about serious money or property. Claire shook her head. "Hang in there. Try talking to him directly, or you'll just stew in guesses." But a direct talk wasn't happening. Ethan kept dodging her. At home, Emily found him glued to his laptop, brushing her off. "Sorry, busy. We'll talk later." When she finally insisted on waiting up for him, he suddenly claimed exhaustion. "I don't want to discuss anything now. My head's killing me." 3 days later, Emily was on the verge of exploding from frustration and confusion. Plus, she had to return to the law firm to wrap up some formalities. The tension was mounting. At the firm, she learned her aunt hadn't just left the condo, but also dividends from old investments and a small cabin by the lake. To Emily, it felt like a gift from fate. She'd never imagined her aunt, who lived so quietly in her final years, had such assets. She must have saved her whole life and discreetly wrote the will, Emily thought. The paperwork showed she was now the owner of a substantial inheritance. Legally, she had full control over it. No other relatives were named in the will. So why were Ethan and Marge so fixated on some documents and transferring rights? Were they planning to pressure her into signing the assets over to Ethan or making them joint property? That same day, she cornered Ethan in the entryway, blocking the door. "Enough. We need to talk. What do you know about my business at the law firm? And why are you discussing it with your mom behind my back?" Ethan flinched but tried to laugh it off. "Honey, what's this nonsense? Who told you that?" Emily didn't back down. "I heard you two talking when I got home early. You mentioned papers, something about losing it all if we don't act fast. Stop lying and dodging, or I'll draw my own conclusions." Her tone was sharp, her eyes locked on his. Ethan must have realized hiding was pointless. With a sigh, he admitted, "Mom's older sister somehow found out your aunt had some valuable stuff. Mom started hounding me to convince you to sign it over to me, saying it'd be too late otherwise." I pushed back, but what? Emily hissed. "But I thought about it too. We're family. If we had joint property, we could invest the money or real estate into something worthwhile. Isn't that a good thing? Plus, Mom thinks your dad's relatives might claim the inheritance otherwise. Why would we want that?" Emily's head spun with outrage. "This is insane. I'm already your wife. Being family doesn't mean I have to sign everything over to you. And why is your mom meddling in my affairs?" Ethan shifted tactics. "Look, it's not that bad. We just wanted to find the right moment to talk. So you put in both our names. What if I'm out here earning, then end up with nothing? We're supposed to trust each other." Emily nodded, lips tight, but inside, she was boiling. Trust? So I'm supposed to trust you while you plot and treat me like a clueless pawn? She didn't continue the conversation. I'm tired. We'll talk later, she said, her voice breaking, before heading to the bedroom and quietly shutting the door. Tears poured out. The next day, Ethan's father, Frank, called. Their relationship had always been calmer. He delicately asked if they could meet, saying he had something to discuss. Emily tensed, wondering if her father-in-law was in on it too, but her gut told her Frank had always treated her better than Marge. They agreed to meet at a park near the college. The warm rays of autumn sun no longer felt as cozy, but they stirred a faint nostalgia. Frank, a short, slightly stooped man with tired eyes, sat on a bench, fidgeting with a bag of birdseed. When Emily approached, he looked up heavily. Sorry for butting in, but I sense a storm brewing in our family. Is it about the inheritance? Yeah. Emily sighed softly. You know everything. Frank gave a bitter chuckle. Your mother-in-law's acting like she's got the key to a gold mine. But I think it's wrong to pressure you into sharing or signing anything over to my son. I tried telling her to let it be, but she's stubborn. She's even leaning on Ethan, saying if he doesn't take charge, it'll be too late and you'll walk away with the money. I'm worried she won't let up. Ethan's not as greedy, but his mom knows how to wind him up. I don't know what you've decided, but I'd advise you to stay sharp. Emily felt a surge of gratitude. At least someone in this family had some sense. Thank you. I'm still figuring out what to do. It hurts to think my husband could give in to her and step over me for some selfish gain. Frank sighed. Don't rush into decisions. Just protect yourself. If it gets too heavy, don't stay quiet. Call me if you need help. I'd better go, got errands. Take care, kid. He stood, gave a shy smile, awkwardly patted her shoulder, and they shuffled out of the park. On her way home, Emily thought, he's right. I need to be cautious. If Marge is this relentless about meddling, how far could she go? Forgery? Blackmail? But the scariest realization was that Ethan was part of it. Maybe he married her for calculated reasons, knowing she might have wealthy relatives. Or maybe it's a new idea and his mom just got in his head. Meanwhile, life went on. Worked through Emily a few tough weeks. She had to lead faculty workshops, prep students for exams, and pretend everything was fine at home, but the tension there only grew. Ethan sometimes came home too late or vanished for hours, citing errands or helping his mom with some city hall paperwork. Each time he left, he'd toss out a line. You know we share a budget. It'd only be fair to put the rest in both our names. Or if we're family, there's no need to hide anything. But he dodged real talks whenever she tried to dig deeper, sometimes just walking out to avoid it. Emily felt he wasn't being honest, just waiting for her to cave. Soon, Marge showed up again, catching Emily alone and putting on a fake show of concern. Sweetie, how are you? I'm worried about you and Ethan. Maybe you'll finally see eye to eye. We all want what's best, you know. It'd make sense to simplify things. Sign a power of attorney to Ethan, and you won't have to keep running to the lawyer. Emily's stomach dropped. It was crystal clear. Marge was pushing for Ethan to gain easy control over her assets. She forced a smile. I'll think about it. Marge squinted. Don't drag it out. Sometimes you miss your chance to settle things. And then, well, life happens. Her words sounded like a sinister prophecy, almost a threat. Emily felt a chill. Was that a warning? She barely slept at night, tormented by thoughts. Will I have to leave him if he keeps pushing? She still loved the caring Ethan she once knew. It was hard to imagine it could end in divorce. Yet she knew she had to stay in control, or they'd back her into a corner. A couple of weeks later, with the inheritance paperwork nearly finalized, Emily stumbled on another surprise. The aunt's cabin wasn't as simple as it seemed. Rumors swirled that it held antiques. Locals from the lakeside community said her aunt's grandfather had brought back rare religious paintings and a chest packed with unique heirlooms. Legally, it all belonged to Emily now, if the items were still there. That's why Marge is so obsessed, Emily realized. She must have heard tales of an antique chest and wants to claim it. Fear crept in. Her husband and mother-in-law might demand those items once they realized the cabin wasn't just a house, but a potential gold mine. After stewing in doubt and fear for days, Emily decided to act to protect herself. She finalized all documents in her name and told the lawyer, "I'm not transferring ownership anytime soon. If anyone besides me tries to change anything, don't proceed without my presence." The lawyer nodded. Of course, we have strict protocols. But Emily couldn't shake the suspicion that Marge might try something shady. I'll stay vigilant, she thought. The hardest part was still ahead. One evening, coming home, Emily found Ethan leaning against the wall by the door, a grim smirk on his face. "Well, dear wife, we still haven't come to an agreement. Maybe it's time you saw reason? Let's talk like adults." He stepped close, reeking of alcohol, his eyes bloodshot. "I'm tired of repeating that I don't owe anyone an explanation about what I inherited," Emily shot back. "If you're only interested in those papers, honestly, it makes me sick. Maybe we should just live apart." Ethan exploded. "What? You're threatening divorce? Go ahead, but just so you know, I pay for this apartment. I renovated it. The car's in my name too. So leave if you want, but don't think you'll walk away with everything. You think I can't file a lawsuit? Prove your relative's assets were obtained illegally." Seeing his face twisted with malice, Emily felt like she was looking at a stranger. Pain stabbed her, like her heart was clenching into a fist. She barely held back tears. "I don't know what you'll do, but I know one thing. If you keep pressuring me, I'll leave, and you'll regret ever messing with me," she said, trying to sound firm despite her trembling voice. For weeks, it went on like this. Sometimes Ethan switched tactics, turning sweet, trying to hug her gently, saying, I get it. We just need to think about our future. You want us to have a shared home, a real family nest, don't you?" Emily noticed Marge's shadow lurking in the hallway, heard her coughing, clearly eavesdropping. She realized it was a performance to make her feel guilty and given. But she didn't budge. "Let's go back to love and trust. Start fresh. If I'm more to you than just a cash cow." The moment she said it, Ethan's face turned cold, like he didn't grasp what feelings she meant. The day came when Emily had to visit her aunt's cabin, now officially hers, 2 hours away. She went alone to check the place, assess the property, and look for those paintings in the chest. She took an Uber, the sky overcast with a light drizzle, her heart uneasy. On the way, she thought, if there's really something valuable, I'll need to secure it before Marge and Ethan get their hands on it. The Uber dropped her off at a faded sign for Lakeview Pines, and Emily walked through the quiet community, passing only a couple of locals who eyed her curiously. Her aunt's cabin sat on the outskirts, behind a rickety fence, but the roof looked solid, the windows intact. Her aunt had clearly put effort into maintaining it. Inside, it smelled of dampness and faintly of old wood. Gotta air it out, she thought. She wandered through the rooms quietly. Rough furniture, an old fireplace, a few family photos on the wall, and, tucked in a corner, a heavy chest with metal fittings. Could something really be in there? She found a set of keys, searched the house, and finally located the right one for the lock. Lifting the lid, she saw only stacks of yellowed tablecloths, embroidered linens, and a few books. The antiques seemed more sentimental than valuable. But then, under the fabric at the bottom, she found a carved wooden box. Inside were 3 old religious paintings. Emily wasn't an expert, but they looked centuries old, the faces darkened, the gold leaf peeling in spots, yet radiating undeniable age. This is it, she thought. If these are valuable, Marge will go into overdrive. Sighing, she decided to photograph everything and maybe get them appraised later. She silently thanked her aunt. The woman had left a significant mark on her life, even without saying it herself. Emily found nothing else of obvious value in the house, but resolved not to tell Ethan about the discovery yet. That evening, back in the city, she was exhausted, her legs aching, a quiet fear settling in her chest. What now? What I do next? Entering the apartment, she felt an unsettling chill. Suitcases stood in the hallway. Hearing her steps, Ethan emerged from the bedroom. "Pack some stuff?" she asked evenly. "Whose is this?" He gave her a tense look. Mom's friend had a flood. We're lending her some things temporarily. Emily shut the door and walked to the kitchen without commenting. The air felt thick with the threat of an impending fight. Suddenly, the phone rang. Ethan answered, putting it on speaker, seemingly on purpose. Marge's voice came through clearly. "So, did you convince her? We need to settle this before she disappears to that Lakeview Pines place." Ethan coughed awkwardly, but Marge pressed on. "I know people who'd buy part of her cabin, so you could invest later. Don't just sit there." Emily couldn't take it. She snatched the phone from Ethan's hand and shouted, "Stop your dirty games. This is my inheritance. I'll decide what to do with it." She hurled the phone down, and it skidded across the floor. Ethan glared, hissing, "Why'd you do that? Mom's just trying to help us." Emily snapped, "Help us or herself? I heard everything from day one. I'm done. This is my house, my rights. Don't you dare decide for me." His face flushed with anger. "Then don't be surprised if we take steps," he yelled, grabbing the phone and storming out. Alone, Emily broke down sobbing. She couldn't believe this was her life. A year and a half ago, she dreamed of having a child with Ethan, thinking their marriage was solid, their problems fixable. Now she saw he didn't view her as a person, just assets to claim. Worst of all, Marge, like a spider, was weaving an intricate web, pulling her son into it. What do I do? For days, she lived on autopilot, avoiding home in the evenings to dodge Ethan. But a week later, he reminded her of his presence, cycling between sweetness and threats. "Look, we're still family. Let's settle this peacefully. You could sign a power of attorney for the property. Even a mom, not me. It'd speed things up and save you the hassle." Emily flared. "No, period." Ethan hissed. "You're choosing this path? Big mistake. Mom has connections. We'll get what's ours. Don't think you'll win in court. We'll find dirt on you. You'll be begging us later." Emily realized he'd forgotten they were once close, that their marriage, their bond, mattered. Had he become a total stranger? After sleepless nights, she called her mother, with whom she'd had a rocky relationship. Her mom lived in another state, but was blunt. "Sweetie, leave him. You want to stay with a guy who's only after your money? That's humiliating." Emily was on the verge of walking away, but deep down, she hoped Ethan might wake up and see he was losing her. Plus, she felt breaking the vows they'd made years ago was too painful. Soon, the college held a celebration for its anniversary. Emily had to give short speech. She dressed up, put on a nice dress, did light makeup, hoping work would distract her from the family drama. But to her horror, a colleague told her before the event that police were waiting in the lobby. Apparently, Marge had filed a complaint claiming Emily was illegally holding property that belonged to her and Ethan, accusing her of fraud. Emily was stunned. The officers were polite, but asked her to come to the station for a statement. She assured her colleagues she'd return later and explain, then went to give her account. At the station, the detective listened, saw Marge's claim was flimsy, and said, "At this stage, there's likely no crime here, but we have to do a routine check." Emily, hands shaking, pulled out her folder with the will and inheritance documents, all properly notarized. The detective nodded. I see it's your legal right. They drafted a report, and as he walked her out, he said, I'm sorry your family's dealing with this, but you're not the first. Hope it works out. Emily returned home, drained. So they'll stoop to anything, even dragging me into police disputes with lies. It was clear this was the start of open war. When Ethan came home that night, she threw it in his face. I know who put your mom up to that complaint. Stop this while you still can, or else. He just laughed. Not me, her idea. And yeah, you're so smart, but mom's left with nothing. She deserves better. I'm not missing my shot either. Emily turned away silently, feeling only coldness and selfishness radiating from him. Their marriage was crumbling. She quietly started looking for a rental apartment, planning to move out and later decide what to do with her assets. Claire, hearing about it, offered help. Crash with me for a bit. How about a 2-bedroom? We'll figure it out until you're back on your feet. Emily considered it a possible escape, but she knew if she left, Ethan and Marge might snoop through her papers at home, maybe pull some scam. Her notarized copies were with her, but what if something critical was still at the apartment? She decided not to formally end things yet, though she felt the end was inevitable. Soon, another unsettling incident hit. One night, Ethan wasn't home. The doorbell rang. Police. Open up. Your upstairs neighbors have a leak. We need to check your pipes. Emily opened the door. 2 unfamiliar men stepped in, barely polite, and one started glancing around while the other headed to the bedroom. Where are you going? She asked, alarmed. They quickly checked the bathroom, said, Looks fine, must be upstairs, and left abruptly. Only later did she notice a hallway cabinet slightly ajar, like someone had rifled through it. Were they really plumbers? Or Marge's hired goons? She thought, horrified. They were after my documents. She called the police to check if there'd been such a call. They said no. It was a blatant setup. Her hand shook. They'll keep coming when I'm not here. The breaking point was nearing, and Emily knew she had to act decisively. On a lawyer friend's advice, she secretly rented a bank's safe deposit box and stored all her original inheritance documents, wills, everything. She also asked a colleague, a legal expert, to file a court motion to protect her property rights. It's a formality, he said, to register that you're officially asserting your rights. It'll make any outside tampering harder. Emily agreed. She didn't want a public scandal, but saw no other way. Meanwhile, the psychological pressure intensified. Marge started showing up daily, trying to wear Emily down with talks and hints. It escalated to blackmail. If you don't sign the power of attorney, I'll find a way to smear you. You know, we could plan something, then report it. Emily's blood drained from her face. This was a direct threat to frame her with drugs or stolen goods. Marge was acting like a seasoned con artist. Ethan seemed to vanish, stopped sleeping at home, as if he'd fled, leaving his mother to finish breaking Emily. It was clearer than ever. She didn't need this family anymore. But one night, about a month after this storm began, everything changed. Emily came home late, hoping no one would be there, but the bedroom light was on. Stepping in, she found chaos, drawers yanked open, papers scattered. Marge stood by the window, rifling through documents, her eyes glinting with a crazed intensity. What are you doing here? Emily shrieked. Looking for what rightfully belongs to my son. Marge yelled. Emily lunged, trying to snatch a folder from her hands. Marge grabbed her hair, twisted her arm, like she was possessed. A struggle broke out, fabric tearing. Emily broke free, shoving Marge back, screaming, "Get out of my house." But Marge hissed, "We'll see whose house this is. You played the boss long enough. Your wealth belongs to my son." She grabbed a heavy pen holder from the desk. Emily thought, she might hit me. Time froze, but then the door burst open. Ethan stood there, seeing his mother raising the object over Emily. He went pale. "Mom, what are you doing?" Marge froze, her eyes darting wildly between her son and Emily. Then she dropped the holder to the floor and spat. "You think she loves you? She'll ruin you. She wants it all for herself." Ethan grabbed her arm. "Let's go." She shouted curses at Emily, but he dragged her to the hallway, threw her coat on, and they stormed out. Emily, holding her breath, sank to the floor. Tears streamed down. It had come to this, a fight violence. This was the point of no return. A couple of hours later, Ethan returned, quietly opened the door, and entered the bedroom. Seeing the mess in Emily's tear-streaked face, he sat heavily beside her. "I don't know how we got here. I'm sorry, Mom's unhinged. You know she has her reasons." Emily laughed bitterly. "Reasons? What reasons for attacking me? Your dad warned me she's capable of anything, but I still didn't believe it. I thought it couldn't be true." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Listen, I'm torn. On one hand, she's my mom. She's drilled into me since I was a kid that I have to look out for her. On the other, you're my wife, and it kills me that you won't compromise. Would it be so bad to invest your money in our future? She keeps saying you'll screw us over, leave us with nothing." I believed her, but now I see it's getting insane. Emily looked at him, her heart breaking. "And now what? You want me to hand over my house? All the money to your family? Is that our future or your mom's payday?" Ethan shook his head. "We could have worked it out, but after tonight, I don't know how to fix this." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Too late," she whispered. "What's too late?" "No, I can talk to Mom, explain it's your property, that we need to respect your rights. We can live like before. I promise." Emily shook her head. "Not like before. It's over, Ethan. I can't live in this atmosphere of blackmail and violence. I am scared. I don't want your mom turning you against me or you siding with her. I hoped you'd stand by me, but you waited too long, and now she nearly hurt me. And you say you're torn?" She gave a bitter smirk. "I'm sorry, but all I can think about is leaving." He reeled like he'd been slapped. "You're serious? You're leaving me? You left me when you started backing these schemes," she said, raising her voice slightly. "I'm sorry, but I've made my decision. I need to live separately. I'll take my documents and stay somewhere else." The next morning, she called a moving service, packed her things, and took them to Claire's. Claire welcomed her warmly. "Stay as long as you need. I've got you." Emily filed a police report about Marge's break-in and assault. It was terrifying, but she felt she had to draw a line. Let Marge realize actions have consequences. The police took the report, but hesitated to press charges. Emily had bruises on her arm and a torn blouse, but beyond her word, evidence was thin. Still, Marge must have been spooked, because she stopped showing up and threatening. Ethan called a couple of times, trying to patch things up, saying he regretted his mom's actions, begging her to reconsider. But Emily was firm. "I'm not coming back to that apartment until your mom leaves me alone for good. And you need to prove our future's about love, not money." He went quiet, only his heavy breathing audible on the line. As time passed, Emily grew sure there was no life with Ethan. He'd shown too much cowardice, too much deference to his mother. He kept trying new hooks. One day, he showed up at her college, meeting her with, "I need you. We can start over." I told Mom to back off. She's staying with her sister for a while to stay out of it. Come back. But Emily felt a mix of pity and disdain. "Too late," she said aloud. "I'm not the same person who believed your words. I need time, and I've decided to file for divorce." Hearing divorce, Ethan deflated, then snapped, "Fine, divorce it is. But just so you know, I'll contest your rights. I'll say you were keeping a lover, spending your inheritance on him. I've got so-called witnesses who saw you with some guy." She smiled bitterly. "You'd really sink that low? Go ahead, file whatever. I'm not scared anymore." This time, she was resolute. There was no going back. Weeks passed in gut-wrenching tension. Emily stayed with Claire, mentally prepping for legal battles, when out of the blue, Frank called, asking to meet in a shaky whisper. When they did, he said, "Emily, I know things have gone too far. My wife's sick. They found a serious neurological condition. She's not herself. Ethan's struggling but still can't stand up to her. I want you to know no one has the right to take what's yours." I'll try to talk sense into her, but Emily met his eyes. "Thank you for trying, but it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not going back. I understand she's ill, but what's done can't be undone. I'm filing for divorce." Frank nodded grimly, seeing it was pointless to argue. "I get it. If you need anything, call." The day came when Emily, knees trembling, walked into the courthouse with her divorce petition. Ethan showed up sullen. Marge was absent. The first hearing tried to reconcile them, but Emily stood firm. Ethan kept his eyes down, like he regretted it, but did nothing to fix things. The judge, seeing no kids and only Ethan's property to consider, Emily's inheritance wasn't divisible, set a cooling-off period of formality. But it was clear divorce was coming. Months later, Emily received the court order finalizing the divorce. Ethan didn't fight further. Their lawyers noted there was almost no joint property to split. It ended without much fuss, legally speaking, but Emily's soul was scarred by the ordeal. She visited the cabin, relieved to find it untouched, no break-ins. The chest with the paintings she temporarily moved to a bank vault for peace of mind. Soon after the divorce, Marge fell gravely ill, and Ethan seemed to move with her to another city for treatment. Emily tried not to follow their fate. She'd had enough pain. She threw herself into renovating her aunt's condo, planning to move in permanently. The emotional wounds still burned, memories haunted her. Sometimes, missing the days when she and Ethan seemed happy, she cried at night. It was tough, but she knew she'd made her choice. Just when it seemed her story was over, she got news that threatened to turn everything upside down. Old friends of her aunt called, saying she'd left a letter that never reached the lawyer. Apparently, it detailed plans for the Lakeview Pines cabin. Emily thought it might be a mistake, but they swore the letter existed, explaining why the inheritance went to her and what conditions her aunt set. Conditions? Emily wondered. Maybe it can't be sold? Or she wanted a cat sanctuary there. She had to find out. She returned to the law firm to clear it up. The lawyer reviewed all documents. No official conditions were recorded. Your aunt likely didn't submit it, so it's probably just a personal wish, not legally binding, he said. Still, Emily wanted to honor her aunt's memory and learn her intent. She asked the friends to mail the letter. Seeing her aunt's frail, fading handwriting, Emily's throat tightened. The letter read, "Dear niece, I know life's been hard for you. I hope my inheritance brings you good. I only ask if you can keep the cabin in our family. Don't sell it. Our ancestors gathered here. It holds generations of history. I trust your husband is dependable. He'll help you make it a home, and you'll raise kids there. Be happy." Reading it, Emily broke down. Her aunt didn't know there'd be no family bliss, that her husband turned out greedy and unreliable, that no kids would live there. Heavy thoughts haunted her for days. She cried a lot, sitting in the empty, half-furnished condo. Then she remembered the paintings. Maybe donate them to a church or museum. Her aunt mentioned family history. Perhaps share some of this heritage? She hadn't decided, but knew one thing. Her aunt meant well, and she had to find the strength to move forward. She planned to restore the cabin, make it cozy, not for a life with Ethan, but for herself, for future generations. Life slowly stabilized. Emily officially claimed the cabin, visiting every weekend to tidy up. No more claims came from Marge or Ethan. Her illness and their own issues must have consumed them. Nightmares of fights, overheard talks, and fake police at her door lingered, but the pain dulled with time. She wanted to believe the worst was behind her. One day, Frank called, wanting to meet, saying he had words for her. Emily recalled how he'd been the only one in the family to treat her humanely. She agreed. They met at the same park, on the same bench. Frank looked older, more hunched. "I'm sorry I couldn't shield you from all this. My wife took it too hard that you got money and property." Ethan, with his weak spine, couldn't stand up to her. "I was powerless too. I'm ashamed." Emily squeezed his hand. "It's in the past. I'm grateful you at least tried to warn me." Frank sighed heavily. "You did right by leaving. I don't think anything could have saved that marriage." Ethan's in a tough spot now. His mom's in the hospital with a late-stage illness. Care's expensive, and he's scrambling for money. "I just wanted you to know he might try reaching out, but hesitates." Emily frowned. "Why? If he needs cash, I'm the last person he should call." Frank spread his hands. "I get it, but maybe there's still some feelings left." She shook her head. "I feel sorry for him, sure, but I'm not going back." A slight pang of guilt hit, but she brushed it off. Too much had happened. Then Ethan did reach out, calling her. His voice was quiet, broken. "Hey, sorry to bother you. I'm in trouble. Mom's dying. We can't afford her surgery. I know we ended badly, but I'm begging. If you can, lend me some money. I'll agree to any terms. Pay it back." Emily paused long. "Why call me?" she asked, feeling anger bubble up. "Your mom tried to take my property, humiliated me, threatened me. Now, when she needs help, you remember me?" Ethan sobbed. "It's not like that. We got no one else. Dad got laid off. My aunts can only chip in a little, but we need a lot fast. I know I've got no right, but you're not heartless." He fell silent. Tears welled in Emily's eyes, mixed with rage and pain. Part of her didn't want to be vengeful. Marge was sick, maybe truly needed help. But hadn't they poisoned her life? Emily asked for time to think. For 2 days, she was a wreck. Claire said, "You're not responsible for their mess. If you give money, they might think you're still weak. If you don't, you'll feel guilty. It's your call." In the end, Emily decided to act. She contacted her lawyer to offer Ethan a loan agreement with interest secured by, say, a share of his parents' house. It felt harsh, but she saw no other guarantees. When Ethan heard, he deflated. "I can't put Mom's house up. It's in her name, so that's out." He didn't call again. 6 months passed. Emily slowly healed her emotional scars. She nearly finished renovating her aunt's condo. She visited Lakeview Pines now and then, hiring workers to replace part of the roof and install plumbing. She wanted it done right, so the cabin would stand for years. The past still hurt, but life moved on. In one of her document drawers, she found an old letter from Marge to Ethan, one she'd glimpsed once, where Marge wrote she'd do anything for her son. A pang of pity hit Emily. Maybe she only hated me out of fear I'd take her son away. But even feeling sorry for the sick woman, Emily couldn't forget the attacks and threats. So she told herself, yes, they're in trouble, but I'm not obligated to save those who try to ruin me. Claire cheered her on. Exactly, focus on you. You deserve happiness. Stop sacrificing for haters. Months roll by, life settling. Emily even started talking to a nice guy from the college, Stephen, a quiet, caring math professor. He knew a bit about her pain, but didn't pry. One day, he suggested, "How about we visit your cabin? I can help fix some stuff." Emily agreed, quietly thrilled to spend time with someone who made her feel safe. On a sunny summer day, they drove to Lakeview Pines, pulling old boards, painting the fence, laughing. Suddenly, Emily felt she could smile genuinely again, hope flickering for the future. That evening, after work, they sat on the cabin's porch, watching the sunset over the fields. Stephen pulled out a thermos of coffee and sandwiches. In that moment, Emily recalled everything. the terror of Marge's break-in, Ethan's betrayal, her aunt's inheritance, the letter dreaming of a happy family here. Sighing bitterly, she stared at the fading sky. Maybe my aunt was right, hoping I'd find peace in this cabin. Stephen squeezed her hand. You'll find it, if you let yourself live without looking back at those who hurt you. A couple more months passed. Emily kept working on the cabin, making it her own. Then she got a court notice. Opening the envelope, she saw Marge, now her ex-mother-in-law, had filed another lawsuit trying to contest her aunt's will, claiming fraud. Emily exclaimed, "But it's been verified 100 times, and the deadline's long gone." Her lawyer explained, "Anyone can file a new claim with a new angle. You'll need to attend and show your documents." The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. On the day, Emily and her lawyer arrived at court. Marge looked frail, barely standing, her face pale. Ethan was beside her, grim. When the judge asked Marge to state her case, she rambled shakily about corruption at the law firm, claiming the aunt wasn't of sound mind. The judge listened wearily, asked for evidence. Emily's lawyer presented all the notarized documents. After a brief deliberation, the judge ruled in Emily's favor. The claim was dismissed for lack of grounds. The will and inheritance were upheld. Silence fell in the courtroom. Ethan turned away from his mother, as if realizing it was a total defeat. Emily stood to leave when Marge suddenly lunged from her seat, screaming zero. "You're to blame for everything. You ruined my son's life. I hate you." She clutched her chest. Ethan caught her, panicking, trying to steady her breathing. An ambulance arrived, whisking her away. Emily stood in the courthouse hallway, watching the stretcher vanish around a corner, feeling only calm detachment. It's done. I'm letting it go. Whatever happens, happens. That evening, back at her new condo, she opened the door and realized this was likely the end of the saga. With that final, desperate lawsuit, Marge had played her last card. They'd lost. Did she pity the sick woman? Partly, but they'd left her no other path. Leaning against the door, Emily closed her eyes and felt an almost physical release. The weight lifted from her soul. The next morning, she woke with a sense of space for the future. She started planning. I'll head to Lakeview Pines, finish the outdoor kitchen, plant some flowers. Time to start a new life. Though the hurt from Ethan and Marge lingered, she knew it was behind her. She had her condo, her cabin, and, most importantly, freedom from those who saw her only as a means to profit. Let them face their own demons. Late that night, forgetting to pull court papers from her bag, Emily reached into a pocket and felt a piece of paper. It was an old photo tucked among her mom's things, somehow ending up here. It showed a teenage Emily, about 18, and Ethan, both smiling, holding hands. The days when they were in love, unaware of Marge or Will's. Her heart ached, tears welling up. But a second later, she decided, enough. I won't mourn the past. It's dead. I'm alive and moving on. So ended her months-long saga of despair, betrayal, and struggle, but also of finding freedom. Her late aunt may have misjudged her husband, but she gave Emily a chance to build a new life on the solid ground of her own choices. In the final lines of her letter, her aunt had written, "If you face hatred on your path, don't fear it. You have the strength to stand up for your truth, and the good you carry will surely come back to you." Now, in the quiet of the night, creaking open the lid of her aunt's old chest and folding her embroidered linens inside, Emily whispered, "Auntie, I'll try to live up to your hopes."